And we are live. And as we just noticed, I have an E on the end of ITWOBLE for some reason. So I'm just,
It's your creative streak.
it's excellence. Inside the world of box lacrosse, excellence. So we're going to go with it.
So, welcome, lacrosse friends, to Inside the World of Box Lacrosse on Blue Squatch Productions. I am Steven Stamp, and he is Greg Beecher, and Adam Levy is on the physically unable to perform list this week. He has been felled, so that will happen when you have youngsters who are in school, and he's having a tough week. So, we are sad to not have Adam with us, but we forge ahead, and we're going to start by looking back at last week. It was a quiet week, and we're going to take a look at this Rochester, Georgia game. And my focus is going to be, why do not people realize how good Ryan Lansbury is? Why aren't people talking about it? I was actually on Daily Dive with Michael Carvelis this week, and he asked me about MVP candidates. And I said, well, I don't know if he's an MVP candidate at this point, but people need to realize how good Ryan Lansbury is. And he was spectacular. And because he had 10 points in this game, he did get, he's getting more attention. He's actually leading the league in scoring now. This is Brad Gillies with a great goal. Everything was working for Rochester. This kind of puts them ahead, and they just never look back, thanks to some blocks out front and to Riley Hutchcraft continuing to play very well between the pipes. But Lansbury now is leading the league in scoring. He's got 35 points. This is just Mike Manley leveling Taylor Jensen. And but Lansbury is now going to get some attention because he's leading the league in scoring, which is kind of funny because he's played 6 games and other people have played 4 games or 3 games. So he shouldn't be getting it for that reason. He should be getting it for all these things that he does. And it was a great trade for Rochester. I remember somebody telling me at the time, like, oh, well, Rochester overpaid, but I was like, no, not at all. They gave 2 first-round picks. One was the pick used last year. Georgia got Michael Grace at 3rd overall. That was a good pick. I like Michael Grace, but I mean, I'm taking Ryan Lansbury in a heartbeat, obviously.
100%. And he's so unnoticed. So a guy like me who watches and I kind of pick through the stats, I don't get to watch like every game every week. I don't know the history of these guys. So as you were explaining to me, I didn't really pay attention to him. I went through, grabbed a ton of these clips, but then you told me him and Ryan Smith have been playing together forever. And I was like, okay, that makes perfect sense to me because when you watch this game, you can see that level of communication in that content. And honestly, that's my favorite part of it. While was getting those little nuggets because now I get to drop it like I actually know what I'm talking about. I mean, I'll credit you obviously when I can, but really that was huge. And you watch the way these two guys play together, it's nuts.
I suspect Ryan Smith was probably the biggest advocate when, Dan Carey, the GM for Rochester, might have said to the, Smith's part of the leadership group, might have said, hey, there's a chance to get Ryan Lansbury. I'm sure Smitty was just like, absolutely, get him. I mean, and here's Kyle Waters getting a beautiful pass from Lansbury. And it's just the things that this guy does. The second pick is a comp pick that will be, I guess, this year. I'm not quite sure because it doesn't actually show up at this point because the comp picks aren't all set. But it was a conditional first rounder, but it's going to be a late pick, and it's a great trade that they made. I was kind of surprised Georgia gave him up. But I think for Rochester, I mean, some of the things that he's doing here, and one of my favorite plays, I think it's coming up, is one that Lansbury doesn't even score on. But look at that catch and release, going full crossbody with the stick to catch that pass in the air and get the shot off. And that is just a spectacular piece of athleticism right there. And
That
I mean,
is insane though. Like when you explained how he caught it backhanded, so I hadn't watched the game yet, but when you said I really want it, I knew immediately. I was like, this has got to be the one he's talking about because
yeah,
that
he
catch
looks like
and
he's lefty.
release is nuts.
Yeah. It was Native American Heritage Night or First Nations Heritage Night, we'd call it in Canada. But so I love that little shot. But here's Lansbury making a beautiful passing, and that connection with Smith. They've been playing together since junior with the Burlington. It was the Burlington Chiefs at the time. Now the Burlington Blaze, and they have that connection. And you see a bunch of guys pointing at Lansbury like that in this game because look at this, the beautiful seal by Smith. And the thing, Lansbury is getting so hot and playing so well that he is drawing a ton of attention that we're going to see come up as well. Here is a play that he comes down. Is this where he goes across the floor?
Yeah, just
look at that. Finding Connor Fields through
everything
traffic.
seems to
Gets
run
it
through
back.
him.
Yeah, and exactly. And look at that pass when it comes back. It's so quick. People focus on Fields, of course, after what he did last year. And then that pass from Ryan Lansbury, it's in and out of the stick so quickly. And it's not even the best pass from this particular spot he's going to make, because he gets the one later, we'll see, where he gets the pass at his knees and gets it up and gets it away so quickly. And over to the far side, Thomas McConvey, another first overall pick. Lansbury was a second overall pick. But it's just so quick.
That
Like
is, yeah. It's in and out like a quick stick, but over to McConvey. What a pass that was. Yeah, like the camera people could barely keep up with it. By the time they got over to him, it wasn't focused, which makes it grainy, but man, that is beautiful. The ball movement, the anticipation, and right there, he just draws everybody away from him at that point, making it, it's crazy because you think, do you want to leave Waters alone down front? Of course not. But you see both guys grab Launchberry and
it's Lansbury still.
Lansbury, sorry. Hopefully I get it faster than I got Levi. I really struggled with Levi for some reason.
And how about this one? How this pass comes from Connor Fields, comes across. And this is the one, it's down by his knee hip area. He catches it, gets it back into the shooting position, into the passing position. Great play by Fields as well. And the thing to me that is so important with Lansbury and how he's playing and how he draws attention is it really has given Connor Fields, I think, another dimension to his game. Because last year I talked about with you and with a bunch of people how there were times you could watch Connor Fields and during a play it was like, he's going to shoot. He's decided he's shooting this on this possession.
No matter what happens, he's taking the shot.
No matter what happens, and he'd score on some of those, but they weren't great. They were not great plays. And he had a fantastic season, but it wasn't the best thing for the offense overall. And he needed to kind of guide them. With Lansbury, he is, and I want to look at that clip again of Taylor Jensen in a minute, but they did, shift things a little bit now with Lansbury. And you can see that Fields I've watched him a few times this year where I'm watching and thinking this is the point where Fields decides, but he doesn't. He's still looking. He is still so confident in his teammates, and it's not just Lansbury. It's Lansbury opens up space for Thomas McConvey, for Kyle Waters, for Ryan Smith. I think some of the Waters plays, like Kyle Waters, I still feel like, oh, you gave up Thomas Hogarth for him. I hate giving up Thomas Hogarth because I think he's such a difference maker. But when Waters is your fifth or sixth option, holy cow, he's an awfully good player to be your fifth or sixth option, right?
And you're almost better because you get guys like Hogarth that you really need the touches, that he has to be like a top guy. Like Connor Fields, I could never envision him being a fourth or fifth option because he needs the ball in his stick for his style to work. Is Hogarth, you're saying, not one of those guys? I saw the face you made.
I don't think so. No, he'll go inside. He doesn't carry the ball really. I know it was that little eye roll, right? But no, Hogarth will go inside. He's the master inside. He reminds me of Corey Vitarelli when he was playing, that he's just incredible hands inside, but Hogarth is more athletic, has more nuances to his game. But I mean, and last year he had a bad year in Calgary, realistically. He scored a couple of the best goals of the season, but not a great year. But you could see when he was playing with the Haudenosaunee this summer at the Worlds that he was back on his game, and he's been fantastic again with Peterborough in the summer, with Halifax now. He adds that dimension, but he's an inside guy that will catch balls that he makes it look so easy, but they're so hard to catch those balls in short, tight spaces and short passes. And he's remarkable.
Speaking of struggling to catch balls, I mean, obviously Brendan Bomberry, not a good night. No,
he had a tough time, and people have nights like that. Brendan Bomberry is a great player, and just it wasn't his night. Taylor Jensen, I love seeing this. Everyone was talking about Mikey Sisselberger, right? Is it Mike or Mikey?
I don't know.
Mike Sisselberger. Anyway, Michael Sisselberger, Esquire, was brought in by the Nighthawks as a Fogo and did a great job on the faceoffs. I don't think that's why they won this game. I know people are like, oh my God, see, they hire Sisselberger, sign Sisselberger, and they win by a bunch. It's not that simple. There were other things that went into play here. But I think Jensen is such a breakout player in the waiting that having Sisselberger taking draws takes that weight off of Jensen and allows him to do more of what he was doing last year. And he is a dynamic presence. I got to see him up close and personal a couple times in Peterborough during the summer where he's playing for the Lakers. And holy cow, he is fast. He's the brother of Josh Byrne. And you see a lot of Josh Byrne in him from the defensive end, just the speed and the skill and and he can be a difference maker, I think. And
100%. I think this is way more of why Georgia's had issues, though. I mean, when you watch this, you can see how lost the defense is. I mean, how do you leave a guy who's having a night like this alone and both slide? It's just inconsistent. They let him down underneath on that one, and then right here, they both go to the middle.
Yeah. But this, I mean, look at the patience by Ryan Lansbury as he just waits and finds his spot. And he's so confident. I mean, this is a guy who, again, I don't get why there hasn't been more attention, because this is a guy who led when Oakville Rock were in Senior B a few years ago. He led the Ontario Series Lacrosse in scoring. The following year, Oakville returned to Major Series. He led Major Series Lacrosse in scoring. He is a dynamite player. And the funny thing is, he and Jonathan Donville, it was a toss-up, right, in their draft year. Who's number one? And I was a Lansbury guy. I go back to, there's still one play he made when Burlington was in Peterborough in a junior game. And they were up by several goals. He was up at the top of the power play. And there's a pass or a shot that bounced off a Lakers defender and rolled out, and it was going straight to a Laker. And Lansbury dove full out, raced over, dove, and swatted the ball away at full extension so they could get possession back in a game where it was late in the game and they were way ahead. Like, he didn't have to do that, and a lot of people wouldn't have done that.
Some guys just have that drive and desire, and we see it at the end of this game.
We'll see that he's got, where he's working on the forecheck, not quite Adam Poitras level, but he is he's a solid forechecker. So they were a toss-up. I was a Lansbury guy, but so many people told me, no, Donville's better. And I was like, so I succumbed and I put Donville as my number one prospect. And I mean, Jonathan Donville's a great player. I know like Panther City certainly didn't regret taking him first, but if you're redoing that draft, it's still a toss-up, right? I mean, if you take Donville or Lansbury, that's one of those ones where if you are going to have the second pick there, but you get a first pick later, you'll be like, yeah, I'll take either of them. They're both great. But I think Lansbury brings some elements to the game. If he
continues like he's going right now, there's no way it's even a question, though. I mean, Donville's still playing great, but the pace he's on right now, I don't know if he can hold it. I mean, but that's Lyle Thompson-esque numbers. And speaking of him,
how
does he still do this?
I don't know. It's funny because people were talking about, maybe he's slowing down a bit. He's getting a little older. Last year was not, in some ways, his best season, statistically. But look at this. I mean, first of all, I love the, Riley Hutchcraft's like, I'm just going to pick the net up. But Lyle Thompson, look at that move to reach back. And again, he makes that look like a pretty easy thing to do. Go out to your local rink and try this 10 times. And if you can do this the way that Lyle does in terms of where he is, where his body is, and where he puts the ball with no goalie, if you can do it twice on those 10 tries, I'll be impressed. And this is with one of the best goalies in the world trying to stop him, and some of the best defenders in the world trying to stop him.
Just changing stick direction like that midair with the wrist control to be able to hold your core is crazy. And this one would have been amazing, definitely Sports Center worthy, I would think, but unfortunately for him, just after the buzzer.
Yeah. How many steps does he need to make a great athletic play? 0. 0 steps. He doesn't even have to create momentum. I'm 6'8". I have a hugely long reach. I would need 3 steps to get to that position. And they would take me, I mean, he has it go in just after the 30-second clock expired. Guys would have been changing already by the time I got that one off.
They'd have been on their way out of the door. I like it.
Right, they'd be going to the bench. No, it's done. He's going to be a while, but we'll just go.
Shot clock's already expired. But yeah, I think the Georgia defense, just miscommunication. What's going on down there? Did they have a bunch of injuries, bringing in new guys or what? But you could just see.
Not really. I mean, they had. I think Wiedemann was out, right? Adam Wiedemann, and he's a glue guy. So that was important. I think sometimes one player can make a big difference, even though it's such a team thing. I think Wiedemann's a key guy for them, kind of like Dan Coates is for Rochester. Rochester, it took, they didn't have some great defensive games while he is out, but they had such a good game here. I think the other thing, Rochester's also missing Mitch Ogilvie, which should not be underplayed. This is Connor Fields again doing his thing. And I think Fields is, as we said, a better player because of Lanchbury. And that offense is going to be pretty dangerous.
Well, that and I mean, if you see Hutchcraft here, I actually had a clip of one of his saves. I was very impressed with the way Hutchcraft played. I think a
Yeah.
lot of guys are talking about the offense, and obviously you can't, make up for that. But I think when you
Yeah.
watch the way Hutchcraft was just making saves, I mean, inside, just knocking the ball down. And that wasn't even one of his better ones. I just happened to have clipped it because we've got somebody else's. And this kind of drove me nuts that the home announcers did not know it was his first goal. I have to
Oh,
say,
yes.
at first,
Let's watch it.
I'm watching it and I'm like, guys, this is this kid's first goal, and everybody's just like, yeah, nobody's like, and you can see it on his face though, the way how pumped up he is.
It's
For
Caleb
the night.
Benedict, by the way.
Oh
Not
yeah,
just
sorry. For the ninth goal of the game though, but I mean,
yeah,
I absolutely love this move here. He fakes it like he's going to throw it back in, which keeps
yeah,
Gillies over there, and then just
yeah,
goes nuts.
yeah. And it's funny because I actually had to edit Adam Levy's story this week on IL Indoor because he mentioned it was Caleb Benedict's first pro box goal. It's not. He played in the PBLA as just a youngster before his draft time even. And he was spectacular. Skylar Thomas, there was a rule in PBLA, which I really liked, that instead of a penalty, instead of having a 2-minute power play, you could take a penalty shot. It started out, you could do it once per quarter, which was a lot. It came down to once per half because guys were taking, they're getting like 8 penalty shots a game, 4 per team. Skylar Thomas was spectacular. Absolutely. I mean, if you haven't seen Skylar Thomas play, you're missing something. But
So
he
much
and,
fun.
and
So much.
Benedict,
He's one of the
oh, he's
most entertaining
unbelievable. Right?
players to watch too. Just the way he flies through the air. I was a huge fan of that penalty shot, especially after they adjusted it, like you said, because it was a little, it was getting a little excessive some games.
Yeah, yeah. Owen Hill was scoring a ton, but Caleb Benedict started coming out for some penalty shots for Syracuse, and I was thinking, Ron Cogan, why are you not using Skylar Thomas? And then Caleb Benedict does some stuff, and you're like, oh, that's why. Because you know what you're doing because Benedict is spectacular. And I still remember being at the draft when Caleb Benedict was taken, and he he was there with his family. He had his young one, his son, and the family was there. And he's such a nice young man, and it meant so much to him. And I was talking to him after he'd been drafted. He said, "I can't believe I was just picked in the first round of the NLL draft." He's like, I didn't know. I didn't know what to expect, and it meant so much to him. And you can see what this goal means to him as well. That celebration is spectacular. Love to have it coming on Native American Heritage Night because that's that's a big part of his identity as well, of course.
Well, and it's
So
history and culture. He grew up. They play it
yeah,
differently than, especially so for you Canadians. You guys at least start playing box at 3 years old, which is like very similar to the hockey thing. For the rest
yeah,
of us Americans, they can't really understand the culture that
mm,
breeds as far as just like the passion, the backyard playing. That's why when you watch guys like him or Lanchbury, they can throw it and catch it from anywhere and in all kinds of funny positions. Jumping across the crease, catching it backhanded. That's not an American thing. They would want you to switch your hands. So it's
yes,
very that kind of stuff can't be it really can't be taught. It's got to be learned through passion and just enjoying it. And like you said though, Caleb Benedict has been doing a lot of things on the floor, working with Lyle. I loved watching the young man. It was so
yeah.
cool to be able to catch that. But how do you, I mean, how do you think Georgia are they going to bounce back, or is this kind of
Oh yeah,
this
yeah.
is just like a fluke, right? You think a
It's
little
a
too
it's a
amped up
blip.
for the
It's one
games?
game. They won 4 straight games, right? I mean, I picked Rochester to win that game. We don't have to go into the fact that I then waffled and changed my pick. I picked Rochester to win this game. Full stop. Don't, don't. Why are you doing that? Why would you do that to me? Oh man, I used to like you so much. So anyway, I did at one point pick Rochester. And it's because I thought, Georgia had won 4 straight games, and it's hard to just keep winning week after week in this league. You're bound to have an off game. Brett Dobson had an off game. Brendan Bomberry had an off game. They're great players. They're going to come back. But the team as a whole, I think, is very good. I really like Georgia's continuity. They made the fewest changes, I think, of any team in the league over the offseason. And, they've come back with Dobson and Angus Goodleaf, who, again, steps in, I think, one of the best backup goalies in the league. And, I think
His
Georgia's going to
save
be fine.
percentage wasn't really that accurate either if you watched it because those were some amazing quality shots. He didn't get in and just get some like outside shots that he got to block and a few of them went in. I was
Yeah,
actually impressed. I was like, okay. At first, when they
Right.
put him in, I was like, maybe Georgia, if you really get on a run. And then I looked at it and I was like, wait, they scored 8 goals in the first half of the game. Now I think in one quarter they're going to score 8. Not going to happen. I should have been smarter than that. But speaking of IQ level, I really
Yeah.
like this play from Lanchbury as he kind of puts it off the goalie's arm into a place where, Fields can get the rebound.
Yeah. And knowing it, can you run it back? Because I want to see actually, this is the first time I've really noticed. Watch Lansbury, watch where he looks. He sees where Connor Fields is as he's about to take this shot. He sees Fields breaking and clearing away from his man, and then he takes this shot because he knows how good Connor Fields is at getting loose balls. Connor Fields has that instinct that you were talking about before about he's so good at being aware of where the ball's going. So Lansbury just puts a ball out there for Fields to go and get. It's kind of like the back shoulder throw for a quarterback, right? Like you see, the throw in the normal spot isn't going to be the best thing. He's just going to fire this for a reset. And I love it.
Yeah, and then he's just tenacious when
Yeah.
he stays on the floor to back check, but he also doesn't run over Angus Goodleaf, which is a very intelligent move because you
Yeah.
see it with guys all the time. They like to get the guys riled up too. He obviously knows he's not going to probably, or he's trying to hurt him, but some of these guys will run through him a little bit. He doesn't.
Yeah.
It's
It's
a
16-9.
yeah,
What are you going to accomplish?
exactly.
Like, why poke the bear? I mean, honestly, if you do that, Mike Manley's going to come out and just beat the hell out of you. Right?
Yeah, he's definitely coming over.
Like, yeah. Like I don't want Mike Manley punching me.
Yeah, I like it. That's that's where and
I know
that's
how to still it wobble. Sorry, I had to get back to you for the putting up my waffle on the picks.
these.
Yeah, that's fine. Everybody was 0-3. Whatever.
Yeah, no, it was a rough weeks for pick in general though. I mean,
It was.
that
Picking is hard.
Albany Vegas game though,
Oh,
Albany is in all these games, but it doesn't seem to matter which team they're playing against. I mean, if you're playing Vegas, you would think, okay, now's our chance to get a few. But no, we make it the same style game we've had against every other team. Let it get down to the wire, and the inability to finish, close out, however you want to look at it, they've really been struggling.
yeah, there are breakdowns, and I mean, I feel so bad for Ben McDonald, who was the defender in his first game with the team, and he's covering Adam Poitras for some reason up near center and gets beat, which is going to happen when you're heading out high on Poitras, and he scores the overtime goal. And I feel bad for him because I think he's a really good young player.
The rest
I
of the
think
game, he had a
very good.
pretty good game early. That I noticed him early, which usually if I'm picking up on your name and you're a defender, obviously you're playing pretty well, or you've played terribly. So I mean, it could be
Right?
either or. But
Right?
no,
Yeah, and unfortunately for him, there was one moment of the ladder just happened to come at the most important time. I should probably stop talking about it because he did play quite well. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, Albany's been playing down to the level of the competition and not really clicking the way they were. I think the addition, and I think they're going to be fine. The other thing is they're 1-4. They're also a +4 in goal differential, right? I mean, they're going to be okay. They're going to keep winning games. The problem comes with that you've got to win those games. The margin for error is now gone. You just don't have room to have some lapses, and you will have lapses. So it's going to be a challenge for them to make the playoffs. I still see them getting in, but look at the teams ahead of them in the standings, and who do you drop out? Because there's 8 teams. Well, all of the 8 teams are in playoff positions right now. I mean, you're like, who's coming out? Well, Calgary, I think, is probably they're a -2. I think they have some challenges, but they could be a team. Everybody else that's in the top 8, I think are hey, I mean, Philadelphia, again, has played Las Vegas twice. So that's a little deceptive because Vegas was not playing well when they went up against Philly. But even the teams not in playoff position, Ottawa at 9th, well, they're pretty good. They've got Zach Higgins. Rochester, we just saw what they're able to do. They've turned things around a bit. Halifax, we saw what they could do against Albany. And, of course, they have the tiebreaker against Albany, right?
Is that the only time they're going to play this year too now?
I think so. Yeah, there aren't too many where you have. I mean, because you play everybody, right? So that's 13. So you're gonna only play 5 teams a second time. Albany does have a home and home with San Diego later in the season, which is going to be very interesting. Having met in the semis last year, right in the playoffs. But that's the big thing, especially with the unified standings, is you have so many teams to climb over when you get in this kind of hole, and you can win your games, but unless teams ahead of you are losing games, then how do you get up into higher spots?
Yeah, you're not really making any ground up. No, they definitely have not done themselves any favors. And when you look at it, it's so funny. So one thing I got early from watching Coach Clark's press conferences
Mm-hmm.
is looking more at the whole picture of the game. He's like, it'd be one
Yeah.
thing if we didn't have the opportunities. He's like, sometimes they don't fall in, you know. So like that,
Yeah.
when you look at the overtime and looking at Saskatchewan and Albany's stats, very similar teams, and you're talking very
Yes.
different records. I mean, hugely different records. But
Yeah.
in a bright spot, Dyson Williams had a great game.
He did. Dyson Williams had a fantastic game on the Tucker at Lymphoma night. Awesome to see. I honestly, when he scores the tying goal, I figured Dyson was going to score in overtime.
I thought it was
just
writing itself. I was so
right.
hoping. I was telling Charity, and we had a bunch of friends that went down to the game. A lot of them the first game they've ever seen live, so it was really cool. And I said, and I was explaining everything, and I said, if this kid scores the game-winning goal, this place is going to go absolutely insane, or at least it should. But even when he's got that hat trick goal, though, the tying goal, it went nuts.
Yeah.
I will say, as a fan, that is one thing that Albany has. Every game's been competitive. You're looking at it going, why are you letting? You look at some of these strips, though, and you're like, wait, guys, why did we stop playing for 10 minutes here? Like, what happened in that 10 minutes that everybody needed to break?
Yeah.
We just had one at halftime, guys. But
yeah, communications issues, and it's going to happen. I think one of the things offensively too, you look at, I mean, Dyson Williams. Everybody would love to add Dyson Williams to the team, but it's also coming into an offense that was really set up around Ethan Walker, Alex Simmons, and Ty Kurtz last year, right? And that was central. And then you bring Dyson Williams in, and I thought early on you could see Alex Simmons was kind of like, I need to get Dyson involved, because he was taking it as a leadership thing where he needs to get the rookie going and kind of forcing things a little bit, I think. And then he got back to playing his game and just, Alex Simmons, you need to carry the ball. You need to take your shots. Now you bring Callum Crawford in. Yes, he adds a whole another dynamic. He brings a lot of great stuff. But also now it's like, okay, when's Alex Simmons shooting? When is Ty Kurtz getting his chances? And Crawford's not, he's not coming in and saying, I'm the guy, I need to lead the way. He's being a supplementary player.
But even Ethan Walker, though, just trying to distribute it like that with Longboat being out, it makes it a little easier to kind of make those pieces fit.
Yeah.
But that Longboat Powless, like you said, the way the offense was gelling there for a while, I was very concerned seeing all the pieces starting to kind of move, because everybody's like, they didn't really move anybody. I was like, who they moved was huge, because Grennan, nobody expected Grennan to take the shot. They expected him to go in there, dig things out, get the ball, be that kind of knucklehead that just goes in there and smashing people around. That's completely different player than Dyson Williams. And Dyson Williams is a big physical young man, but he's going to demand some shots, whereas Grennan's only taking the shot if it's the best option.
Yeah, that's more of the Fennell role, right? They brought in Eric Fennell, and I think people thought that would be because he's a little bit more the traditional kind of bang around guy, and he can make some spectacular plays. We've seen a couple of unbelievable goals he scored in Halifax, but that hasn't quite worked out, I think, the way they were hoping. And again,
he's getting better each game. What did he have? Knee surgery or something? But whatever it was, the first game was terrible. I was like, I'm faster than you with my bum hip. And now he at least looks like he's faster than me. So it's been a slow, steady process. He's getting better. I personally like Grennan a little better, but that's just, as a fan, I want to watch the guy who's, I know, going to dig it up emotionally. I also, it doesn't affect my paycheck if he takes a stupid penalty at the end of the game and costed the game.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, Fennell is one of those guys that you don't really tend to notice that much, like a Dan Taylor, or I'm thinking guys.
The guys
Joel McCready was a great example, right?
See, I don't know who he is, so that must be exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, he was so gritty, and but there's so many guys like that where they can play that role, and it can really suit them. And I think Fennell is very good at that, and can just slide into that. And it hasn't had the impact they would like yet. But again, you're getting used to it. Brandon Robinson is another excellent example, right? Where Rochester got him to kind of play that kind of role, because he was huge for Buffalo, and you barely notice a lot of it. But when you go back and watch, it's the kind of thing where, like, when you and I are watching clips and we're saying, hey, look at this, we got to look at this clip. And then you see it. The Lansbury play where you can see he just turns his head just enough to see what Fields is doing and shoots it as Fields is opening himself up.
Yeah. Wait until he draws the defender, baiting the defender with what looks like a flip.
Yeah, so much of that during the game? Yeah. Not necessarily. There's a lot going on, right?
Especially for me, I'm sitting behind the net.
About the Lyle Thompson no goal on the shot clock violation, when it's happening live, that's hard to see. Which is why it's hard to blame the refs if they don't get it, which I think they did in that case, right? It was just upheld.
Yeah.
But you watch the slow motion replay, and you've only got a couple things to focus on, and it becomes obvious.
Especially the over the top one with the shot clock, and I can pause it right over the top. It's like, oh wow. When they showed it too, it was half speed, so that 1 second takes 2 whole seconds, and everybody's looking at it going, and it's like, no, that really happens like that. It is crazy. But we do have one more game to cover in our wrap up from last week. What is going on with the Ottawa offense is what I want to ask you.
Well, Connor Kiernan was out, and that's huge. He's such a big part of that, right? Riley O'Connor also out. So that's 2 of your 3 guys who have been kind of the cornerstones of that offense. And I mean, Jeff Teat is fantastic, but he can't do it on his own. He needs the support. And Jacob Dunbar was great again. He's been huge for them, but they don't have, at this point, they're still building the depth. And honestly, it goes back, and they had a rough start to that franchise when they put the original franchise together with their expansion draft. Just did not go well. They just did not set themselves up well for long-term success. And the Black Bears are having to deal with that still and trying to build that institutional depth, and they just don't have it yet to do that. You've got guys like Larson Sundown and that, they're good players,
but he had a bad night too, and that's the problem, is when you need him to be your Simmons or Kurtz, like your 1 or 2 guys, man, when he's off, it's like, what are you doing out there, bud?
Yeah. So I think they don't have that depth yet. And getting Kiernan and O'Connor back is going to help immensely, right? They put Grennan in. I know a lot of, big people are big Grennan fans. I get it. I think he's a terrific player. But, I mean, they're like, oh, look, Grennan goes in and he scores. Well, he scored from near center, right, on a late shot. Like, that's just one that goes in. I like what Grennan brings to the table. The penalties are a concern, that some of the choices that he makes at critical times are concerned, but he can bring a lot to a lineup. But it's tough. You need more than that.
Right.
But I mean,
that being said, he's probably just on a short leash, I would imagine. They haven't started. I think this was the first game he played, wasn't it?
Yes, that was his first game.
Yeah, so this was his first.
Especially because he's an Ottawa guy, right?
Yeah.
So people were happy to see him. He's been part of the marketing of the team and everything. And then he's not playing. People are going to grumble. But I get the decisions that they've made. I mean, but then obviously he's coming in with O'Connor out. Now they signed Brady Kiernan as well, and I was curious to see if the Kiernan brothers would play together. And they wound up both being scratched as Connor was dinged up from the previous game, and Brady. It's the most logical thing. You sign a new guy, he's going to be the scratch, right? Because he's a guy who wasn't part of the process before. But it'd be pretty fun to see them together, because they actually, Brady Kiernan is very good as well.
Yeah, and I mean, Oligurieri didn't get challenged too much, 33 saves. That's huge, but not a goal in the second half. Yeah, like you said, that's just terrible. I was really excited to see, though, that it doesn't happen very often. So Jay Thornburg, Allegheny Arrow, the leading goal scorer for the Ottawa Black Bears. So we don't always get the Allegheny Arrows on top of the scoring list for the night for the team. We will get a couple, occasionally, but it's usually a Buffalo guy, not your face-off guy.
Right. Well, and Jay Thornburg, I mean, he's not usually getting the attention for scoring goals, right? Because he's the all-time face-off leader. Like, he's a long
grinder,
famous career with in this league. But yeah, he's not a big goal scorer, but that was a big one. And Ottawa's D was great. Zach Higgins was phenomenal, just phenomenal. Like,
that's what I was gonna say is, how bad do you think this game could have been? Like, I was really impressed with Higgins. I was more of a Higgins guy than Damoud. So as far as like what Buffalo or Philadelphia, I was like, what are you doing? But I expect
they were getting Phil Caputo and Liam Patton and a goalie.
I don't look into all that, though. I look at the big name and I say, oh, why would you do that? And also, I'm sure you're aware by now, I happen to think goalie is the most important position in the world ever.
Yes. Phil Caputo was the other guy I was thinking of, by the way, when we were talking about the guys who aren't appreciated. How good he is and what he brings as a grinder.
We have gone 40 minutes into our 10-minute segment. Let's take a quick break, and we will be right back. Thanks so much, everybody. Welcome back. And yeah, a terrible last week, but we're moving forward now. We're going to do picks and look forward with only 3 games. It's tough. I got to say,
Last week is over. Nobody remembers what happened, so it's irrelevant. What the picks were last week. Don't look at wherever it might show the picks that we made last week because they don't matter at this point. But hey, there you go.
there we go, fresh picks. And
That's ugly.
yeah, it's
I'm gonna
been.
do better this week. I'm
I
pretty
hope
sure
so.
I'll get at least one right.
Well, I would imagine. Now, we have not heard from Adam, so I will try to do my best Adam impression, and I'll put a Blue Scotch logo over it and see how I do going through. But
If
Stamper, I
they
got
get
to.
Preston's picks up, he can have Preston's picks for the week.
Oh, actually, yeah, we'll just do that. See how smart
There
you
you
are?
I'm pretty sharp at times. At least I know how to spell it
There's
wobble.
definitely no E on your it wobble.
No.
All right.
So we're starting with Georgia and Ottawa. I'm taking Georgia because I think they're going to bounce back. I think the one thing that really I was kind of waiting this week. I was wondering how everything was looking, but when I heard Callum Jones is out for Ottawa, I was like, yeah, I think he's so important to that team already as a second-year player, and I think the Swarm bounce back because they're very good, and I don't think they'll play the way they did last week.
No, I don't think they have 2 weeks in a row built in like that. I would be very surprised. I mean, you look at the way like Brendan Bomberry was not catching balls. There's no way
Yeah,
that kid's not gonna, he's not gonna drop 4 passes again this week.
he's too good.
You would think so, anyways. All right,
And you're
this
on the
one,
Swarm too?
I'm pretty sure. Yes, I went with the Swarm as well. I'm pretty sure though. I would imagine you're gonna pick Buffalo.
Oh my goodness. That's so hard. I mean, honestly, I keep thinking Buffalo's so good, but they've had a week off. But so is Toronto now. When you hear Challen Rogers is back, you think, oh man, okay, maybe Toronto finally turns it around. And then you hear Mark Matthews is out, and it's like, holy cow. So I'm a big Tyler Hendricks guy. I think he'll do a nice job in support. And I think Josh Dawick has been outstanding for them across the floor. I think he's gonna continue to take a big role. So I feel like this is one that might surprise people. I just don't know if I can pick Toronto though. I just think I got to take Buffalo until they lose.
That's kind of
Slug me
what
over.
that has got.
Slug me over.
That has got me stuck into the trap of picking Georgia regularly, and then I almost didn't pick them this week because of it. But I was like, you know what, Buffalo. What is going on in Toronto? Is there something in the water? Everybody's getting injured, or what's happening up there?
Yeah, I guess it's the water at the track, right? They're all down. No, I mean Latrell Harris had his injury, and that's a return, I think, of the issues he'd been having. Rogers was hurt was hurt a while ago, so that's another one that's probably maybe I don't even know if it's the same thing, but so he is coming back. But then Matthews, I have no idea. It's just sometimes you have luck like that just goes against you. But I will say they are aging as a team, right? And as you get to be an older team, you get more injury issues. So they are trying to, I think, keep adding some new blood, but it takes a while. And they haven't had a lot of picks, right? Like they haven't had first round picks for ages. So that Rob Hellier deal, I think, was really big. Plus, they kept their own pick. So with having sent Rob Hellier to Las Vegas, they got 2 picks last year, and this year they got Sam English with that pick last year, right? And that's going to be great, but he's not here this year. He's back at school. So it's a bit of a delayed effect. So you've got that lag between when they're able to restock. The really when teams are run really well. I don't mean Toronto's run poorly, but they've had so much depth, but there is that gap where you're starting to age, you're starting to hit the point where you need some of those reinforcements, and you haven't had the opportunities to get them. So you've got guys like Phil Mazuka coming in, who I think has done a pretty good job for them. Josh Jubenville's very good, but you're losing core members. Chris Corbeil's been out, who had started to play really well after taking a while to get into the rhythm with them. Latrell Harris out, Challen Rogers out, all these guys out. It's hard to fill those huge roles. I think Josh Jubenville's really good. He's not Latrell Harris or Challen Rogers. And Tom Schreiber's still out. I mean, it's a lot to overcome. And I think Toronto's good enough to win some games. I don't know if they're good enough to beat Buffalo right now with the way the Bandits are playing.
No, the Bandits would have to basically, all get sick on the bus ride or something. I would imagine. And since it's a home game, it's probably not going to happen.
Having said that, watch Nick Rose just shut him down, and Josh Dawick put up 6 goals, and Toronto can win this game. they can win this game. I don't think they're going to walk in and Buffalo's going to win 17-5, but I do think Buffalo eventually will pull it out.
Right. And also nobody would be surprised if it turned 17-5. I think that's one thing in this game that if it did go that way, I don't think it'd be a huge shock to anybody. Uh,
That's
I got to say though, Vancouver is a team that's got me nervous every week. It doesn't seem to matter who they're playing. I feel like they can win every week. In San Diego, the defense and the goalie, I mean, you watch the Ottawa game, you're like, okay, everybody's on par, but it was Ottawa.
mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean Ottawa, like we talked about, had their injury issues. I think this is a really tough one because I think Vancouver is very good. I generally lean towards a team that played the week before versus a team coming off a bye week. It historically has been a real positive for teams. I think Vancouver's really good. I think they're kind of similar teams in a way, right? They both got really good defenses. I mean, Kurt Malosky, everyone talks about him as a coach and what a great coach he is, and he's a great coach. I think he's done a better job even with Vancouver as a GM in building this roster. Like he's put together a terrific group, and he got such broad reign over the team that he was really able to turn them around quickly and did a great job of it. I think Vancouver's very good. I think San Diego is really excellent defensively. Now they just signed. Who did they sign? They added a lefty. Ty Thompson, they activated. So I'm wondering if Ty Thompson goes up and plays it forward and either Courier or DeChico plays more at the back end. But either way, I mean, they're such a good defensive club. I still think Chris Irregolari is in the development phase of his career. I don't think he's the elite goalie that some people are saying he is yet. I mean, the kid's 22 years old, right? He's good, but
the good thing about that though
is in the season some struggles.
Is you have to get those struggles out. It seems like like when you watch Hutcraft, if he's gonna play and if he's gonna be eventually a starter somewhere, you're gonna have those games where things don't go great and just
look at the starter in Rochester, dude.
Yeah. No, I mean he what is going on with Hartley?
I don't know.
Never coming back, I don't think. But no. Anyway, so I interrupted you on that. Which team are we going with here?
San Diego.
San Diego.
The team that played last week.
I like it. And actually, I found a way. They'll even just pop up as soon as you say it from now on. It's going to appear like magic.
I kind of like the hovering and sliding, but whatever.
All right, we'll slide it after. Okay. So the next one, we've got Philadelphia taking on Calgary. Honestly, I thought this was going to be a battle for the bottom of the league when you look at these two teams.
Yep.
What do you, just off the top of your head, which team's going to have a better season, Calgary, or as far as at the end of the year, who's going to be higher?
Philadelphia. I picked them higher in the preseason, so I'll stick with that. I think getting Holden Katoni back was good for them, and I think Philly wins this game because I think Damoud is. I mean, as much again, if I'm picking Zach Higgins or Nick Damoud to try and win a championship right now, I'm taking Zach Higgins, and I like Ottawa's trade. But boy, wouldn't Liam Patton and Phil Caputo look pretty good in Ottawa right now?
Oh yeah.
Just saying. I mean, and I get it. I mean, you have to give something up. You don't get Zach Higgins because people in the league, they get how good he is. You don't get him without giving up a lot, but they gave up a lot. And that has really helped Philadelphia. They've got all those Panther City players. I think Tyler Burton is a kind of an underrated contribution to that team. Patton is a gritty guy. They've really added some players there. And I think they're going to be pretty good. I don't think they're as good as they looked against Vegas, who was really struggling early, but I think Philly's good.
Yeah, 100%. I think Philly, definitely the winners of the folding of Panther City. With
Yes.
they benefited more than any team out there as far as just being able to trade guys and move guys around and ending up with a goalie. I don't know if anybody did better than them. As we look at this next game, though, what
the old Nighthawks and the new Nighthawks?
Yes, that's what I was just gonna say. Is we have the old Nighthawks going to take on the new Nighthawks in Rochester. Something that maybe everybody doesn't know, but Halifax they weren't the original Nighthawks. They had moved before that, right?
No.
Oh, so they were the original Nighthawks, moved up there, and
yeah. Now you're getting me question myself, but no, I'm pretty sure that was the original Nighthawks, and then they moved, and Rochester got the expansion team pretty much right after. I've seen a lot of fans talking about, what do they wear to this game? Do they wear all their purple and teal jerseys that they all have in the closet, and try to fluster Halifax because that's their old thing, whatever. I don't know. But I think a lot of them are kind of having some fun with it. But I might be in the minority. I actually like Rochester's new uniforms better than the old ones. I like them. I like the green and the the R. I don't know. Anyway, in this game, we should probably make a prediction since that's what we're doing. And I'm going to go with Rochester. I like the way they came together last week. I think they'll play well again. I think Lansbury is going to be really good again. I think, he and Fields and Smith and Waters and McConvey and Curtis Knight. We didn't even mention Curtis Knight. Who's such a beauty of a player.
He started the game off with a goal for him and kind of ran from there. No, he had a great game, but Rochester. That's why when everybody picked Rochester not to do so well at the beginning of the year, they have all the components. The issue for me has always just been they seem so inconsistent.
Yes. And I think they will be inconsistent as well. I think they still have those issues where you see it, but I think they're on a bit of a run here.
Yeah, Halifax, I think that's a fairly easy pick. But this next one is Vegas turning it around. Are they going to be able to take it up to Saskatchewan and beat them just because they beat my Firewolves? Or is Vegas what we all think Vegas is and Albany just needs to figure it out?
I think Albany just needs to figure it out. I think Albany shouldn't have been in overtime in most of those games, right? I mean, but the thing is with Albany, well, let's get to that when we get to Albany. But Saskatchewan, they're playing pretty well. Again, they're sitting in a good spot at 3-1, but they're only a +3. Albany's 1-4, they're a +4. That's kind of weird, right? But I think Saskatchewan is the better team at this point. I think a lot of it depends on Frank Chiliano. Is he getting into the peak of his career? He's going to have some games here and there where he's not going to play well like any goalie, but I think they need him to play well. And he was great early in the season, right? He was fantastic against Albany again in another one of those overtime games. I just think Saskatchewan's a better team at this point. Love Adam Poitras. I think he's playing amazing lacrosse. They've got some great guys. Obviously Connor Kirst is doing some terrific stuff as the captain. It's funny because they just named Connor Kirst the captain this year, right? And you get it, like he is a terrific leader and a gritty guy. But I almost feel like if they'd waited a year or two and gone with one of the more like Jacob Rouet, say, one of the veteran guys, that I think Adam Poitras would be the captain of that team in a couple of years.
Yeah, definitely. I'm a huge Rush fan, watching them more and more. And as long as he can, I'm not even going to try. I'll butcher his name, but as long as I said it, but Shigliato can get it together. I've been very impressed this year. I did not watch their last game. I know they lost, but I've been super impressed with him, and I love the whole Curse crew. Like all those Curse boys, I got to meet them when they tried out for Team USA at Lax Night 2 years ago, and what a nice group of young men. They were just like so happy to talk to. Yeah, they were great. I can't cheer against them. So like watching him, even though I'm a diehard Albany guy, when I watch Curse, take off down the floor, and I turned to Charity, she's like, "That's one of those kids." And I was like, "Yeah," and she won't even. She's just like, "All right, nice goal." But yeah, we're big fans of the Curse boys here. Love what they're doing, and they just seem like such.
CJ's next, and he might be the best.
Yeah. No, I've heard that, and generally that's kind of how it goes. You just iron sharpens iron. When you grow up in that household, trying to get any time in playing, I'm sure has got to be wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, basically Lyle Thompson is the example of that, right? He's the youngest of the Thompsons. You go with Jeremy, and then Heine, and then Miles, and then Lyle. And it's funny, we were talking about playing in the backyard and things before, and I remember D Thompson, their mom, saying, they used to play, it would be Jeremy and Lyle, the oldest and youngest, against Heine and Miles. And she was like, and they even look alike. She's like, Jeremy and Lyle look a lot like each other, and Miles and Heine look like each other. They've got that similar look, which is true when you see them. So I don't know how the Kirsts would split up their games if they go oldest, youngest, and then against the middle ones as well. We got to find that out.
Yeah, we're definitely going to have to ask about that one. I'm curious. Yeah. That is funny because I pay a lot of attention to the Thompsons, and I had never really heard that one about them play. I just knew they all played together and at that field, but that makes sense. I mean, how else do you
tell you my favorite Thompson family story?
Absolutely.
I might have told you this before. So the very first Lax Night, back when it was still the last night, the Thompson brothers elite went in. Billy O'Brien put it together, and a bunch of the Thompsons played. Some of them couldn't. So I think Lila was coaching. Heine was actually playing net because their goaltender wound up not being available. But Jerome Sr. played, their dad. He played. And his uniform number was 242274, which is, it was 6 digits. So 2 is Miles' number, 4 is Lyle's number, 22 is Heine's number, and 74 is Jeremy's number. He had the 6 of them across his back, and he'd go up for shots. It was beautiful. It was so great. He was okay. He didn't play a lot of shifts. I mean, he was, at the later end of his career. Are you muted? Yeah, you're muted.
Thank you. So this game is a trap.
Maybe the best moment of the show, by the way.
Yeah, I'm good like that. No, I love those stories, and the way that
I meant when you were muted.
Yeah, the way that the like the Thompson family and honestly the Canadians in general, just that youth playing together from the age of 3 can't be replicated. So like you take any one of you Canadians who played from 3 to 12, if you don't touch another stick for 10 years, you can pick one up and you'll still be very competent with it just because you kind of build those lifetime skills.
That's true. And I mean, to be fair, the Kirsts are from New York somewhere, right? Or wherever they're from. Thompson's Onondaga. So, but yeah, they're Canadian families. I mean, the Evanses are probably the best example where the 7 of them in the one generation, and then, Stephen Scott and Sean in the next, and then Erica, the cousin, of course, is awfully good. And Turner's a cousin. And anyway, we should probably pick Albany, Colorado. And so we don't make this segment 35 minutes or 40 minutes as well.
Which we probably already have, actually, looking at. Yeah, we're pretty close. We're at our 20-minute timer now, I think.
Well, we can wrap this up in a few minutes, I think. This is a tough pick. I think Albany will turn things around, and I don't think they're going to keep playing the way they have been. Colorado's been good, and they've got, Will Malcolm and Ryan Lee, what a dynamic duo, and then you throw in the Eli McLaughlins and everybody. Connor Kelly's been fantastic, so they've got so much going on. Dylan Ward playing the way he does, and Robert Hope having his best season in a while. Boy, he is rejuvenated, right? Warren Jeffrey
I think he took it personal not making the top 5.
Yeah, maybe. Jordan Gillis, I think, is terrific. It's just right about him. Go to Inside Lacrosse IL Indoor, by the way. And my musings this week was about the 2015 draft, which had Lyle Thompson and Jordan Gillis was in that. Jordan Gillis was in the 6th round of that draft. Can you believe that? And it's funny because Neil Doddridge was telling me before the draft, he's the best defender in the draft. And I was like, no, he's not. Graham Hossick is in the draft. Like, what are you talking about? And that made me question it. But boy, he was pretty on with how good Jordan Gillis was and is. He is terrific. He was an alternate for Team Canada this year for Worlds. And people don't tend to get him. He was in the shadow of Joey Capito for a while. But I know he's a great player. Anyway, I had a point that I was making. Oh, Colorado's really good. But, man, see now, no, I can't waffle. I'm taking Albany. I think Albany's going to win. I think they get back to what they do. But, boy, I'm almost convincing myself to go with Colorado.
I was all Albany until you have convinced me, because I have watched some of the games. And, honestly, I'm a huge Will Malcolm fan. I enjoy watching him. Plus, we had Tony Malcolm here the first year the Firewolves were here. He hosted a clinic for the kids, and we got a chance to meet him.
Tony Malcolm was in that draft, too.
Yeah, see, you guys know all of that, and I have no idea. I'm always like, I don't know. How long has he been playing? At least 3 years.
That draft, the 2015 draft, went Lyle Thompson, Graham Hossick, Jesse King, Wes Berg, Chad Tutton, Randy Stotts. Who else was in the first round? There's Brad Gillies was number 9. We could pull it up. I mean,
yeah, it's insane.
It was an incredible draft. Who are they? I got to know the other guys because they've all played a ton of games, but that's kind of embarrassing for me, actually. Wiley O'Connor, who we've already talked about in the show, and Dan Lintner. Second round, go read my story. We don't need to go into all of it right now, but just go to IL Indoor and check out my story, because it started with Graham Perro's tweet that all 9 of the guys in the first round have played at least 100 games in the league, and 7 of the guys taken in the second round have played at least 100. And the funny thing is, the next 2 guys in the second round, Adam Bomberry's played like 94 and Jordan Durston 97. So they're right there. And then you go through, and there's somebody in every round who has played at least 100 games in this league, 22 overall out of 55 players picked. But yeah, Tony Malcolm, as he was called Anthony Malcolm at the time, he went 11th overall, and I thought it was a bit of a reach because he was a forward really at the time. But Buffalo, as they tend to do, I think shifted him to transition, and boy, did that ever work for him. He's so fast and so athletic. Mitch Desnu was in that draft, and Christian Del Bianco was a second rounder. what a draft! Holy cow!
Yeah, no,
Thomas Elgar that
I
we've
was
talked
going
about.
through it and it was crazy. I actually now the musings I gotta say is definitely one of my favorite articles to check out every week if anybody has it. I did miss three up, three down this week, which unfortunately because then he wasn't even here to explain to me what he talked about this one, so I'm gonna have to go get caught up on my three
Yeah,
up, three down and read that new article.
yeah,
Yeah, so
it was a
we
good
have
one.
definitely done our 2 10-minute segments. I would imagine.
Yes.
Right, we're about an hour into it now.
Sorry, folks.
It's all good. Thank you so much,
Bonus
Steve.
content.
Stamp, I really do appreciate having you and the knowledge. I gotta say though, my favorite part of this is always when you deep dive into the nitty gritty, and then you're like, oh well, I'm off topic. It's like, yeah, I know. If I can remember, I'll steer us back when we need to. But I was really interested in it, so we're gonna
Yeah,
keep going.
yeah, yeah. That's you know what, I have fun. I love doing this. I remember when I was doing it was Boxel Beat for the longest time, then became Lax Beat when I incorporated some field stuff into it as well. But I'd have guests on, and people would be like, you know, when you're having these conversations, it sounds like you guys are just kind of chatting. It's really interesting. I'd have Derek Keenan and Steve Dietrich and people on, and they say, well, you know, and I remember pointing out a couple times, like, this is pretty much what we do. Like, I'll call Chugger up and we'll have a chat like that. And we'll talk for 45 minutes to an hour about all this lacrosse stuff. And if we recorded it, it would basically be an episode of the podcast. And that's the podcast that I would do would pretty much be the same thing. So it'd actually be kind of fun to get that going again. We've got, I'd love to get ITWOBLE growing. And I think it's really fun to share all this, and really appreciate you coming up with the idea and asking us to do it. And it's great having Adam when he's not on the pup list joining us. So yeah, hopefully he'll feel better. We obviously send a shout out to him. And I actually just want to point out, our thoughts to all the folks out in Los Angeles area. I mean, Cooper Perkins, who's IL Indoor contributor and the play-by-play for the San Diego Seals, his family home was burned down, and you know all the schools where his mom teaches in an area where all the other schools were destroyed in those fires. It's insane what's going on out there. So all our thoughts to anybody who's out there dealing with that, because that's horrendous. I mean, to
Yeah.
watch the heat maps.
No, yeah, I was watching news clips from there and people that are trapped. It's a terrible thing. That's why I think it's very important to have winter. You know, you got to have snow.
Yeah.
If you don't live somewhere there's no snow, as much as the cold sucks,
Yeah.
yeah, you got to live somewhere there's snow. We're supposed
It was
to,
beautiful
yeah,
and
it is
functional.
through the windows, especially like right now. I'm sitting in my room. I've got the snow glistening off the neighbor's roof. It looks gorgeous. The
Yeah,
rest of the time, I'm like, you can keep all that snow. But
exactly.
anyways, thank you so much, Stamper.
Yeah,
We will do it again next week, everybody. Hopefully with Adam. Let us know what you think of the live. We'll keep breaking these up into smaller segments too for people to digest. This one's going to just go public as a live, but if you
this is
want to watch these all the time at full length and be able to make comments, join the membership, and it helps
yeah.
us run all these things. So thanks again, Stamper. We'll do it again next
Yes.
week.
Great to see you.